Memorial Day is coming up. Some of you may be planning to go to the beach, and I have some notes for you, which we're going to cover in today's video with regards to skincare at the beach. Things to be aware of, tips, tricks, hacks, and in no particular order. Number one, just to get it out of the way, if you weren't aware, you don't have to stop using your retinoid, your tretinoin, your adapalene, your tazarotene. You don't have to stop using your retinol or retinaldehyde before going to the beach. It is a myth that these products, ingredients, prescriptions make you more sensitive to the sun. Now, when you first start them, your skin overall can be a lot more sensitive to environmental exposures, but they do not truly make you sensitive to the sun. They don't lower what's called the minimal erythematous dose. That's the dose of ultraviolet radiation needed to begin to damage your skin and lead to sunburn. They don't, and if anything, they might actually help your skin in the long run because they suppress some of the activation pathways that lead to collagen destruction when, of course, paired with good sun protection. Okay, next thing we need to talk about is alcoholic beverages. Adult beverages, of course, always consume responsibly and in moderation, but when people are going to the beach, a lot of times adults enjoy, well, an adult beverage. But you really want to be particularly careful with drinking alcohol at the beach in the sun. It can make you more likely to have dehydration, and it can make you have altered mental status if you indulge too much, which is easy to do, especially when it's hot, you're sweating a lot, you're prone to dehydration. Because of that, you are less likely to realize that you are getting a sunburn. A lot of people get a sunburn when they're drunk. The other thing about drinking alcohol in the sun is that it does contribute to depleting the antioxidants in your skin, so the sun exposure that you get ends up being more damaging because the systems in your skin that help handle that are down because of all the alcohol. Be careful in particular of margaritas and those slices of lime in your beer, because limes, lemons, really any citrus, okay? Not just alcoholic beverages, but like, I don't know, if you're somebody who likes to kick back, have fresh lemonade at the beach, citrus fruits on the skin in the sun is a bad combination. It leads to what's called a phytophotodermatitis, basically a really bad rash. So if you are using limes in your adult beverages or any beverage, I guess, make sure that you don't let that lime juice get on your skin. Those of you planning to go to the beach in Florida or maybe Mexico, even Long Island, you have to be careful and mindful of something called sea bather's eruption or sea lice. Basically, there is a jellyfish that releases little larvae into the water, and you won't see the larvae. They're about the size of like a little speck of sand, and they get up under your bathing suit, and then they release like a toxin that is very irritating to the skin, and you develop what's called sea bather's eruption. It is an itchy rash, but the rash is only underneath your bathing suit. So it's because the little sea larvae get trapped up under your bathing suit, and then the friction and rubbing causes them to release the toxin into the skin. It can be quite uncomfortable. It's not deadly or anything, but it is very itchy. About 20% of people feel unwell, like, just kind of lethargic, fever, just, not quite yourself, malaise. But again, it's not deadly. It starts to appear usually within minutes to hours of getting out of the water. And it goes away in about 2 weeks. It goes away in 2 weeks, and that's that. They also can get trapped around your hair too, and long hair, and end up causing rash on your neck. So just something to be aware of. Pay attention to like signs that say don't swim here, or if people are talking about how they went swimming in a certain area and got an itchy rash, well, don't go in there. One thing I want to talk about, I promise this video isn't just going to be a bunch of sunscreen propaganda. I'm saying that sarcastically. But one thing I always emphasize in my videos when we are talking about sunscreen, and especially relevant to going to the beach, is that you don't want to rely on your sunscreen only to protect you from a sunburn, especially at the beach. I always suggest wearing a sun hat, sun protective clothing, seeking shade, and in the case of the beach, an umbrella. But you need to know a few little tidbits about your beach umbrella. First of all, how much protection does an umbrella offer? Well, it depends, but umbrellas can offer pretty decent protection. However, they really only protect you from sun coming down. People can get a sunburn under an umbrella. So you should be wearing sunscreen along with the umbrella to reliably protect yourself from a burn. But at the beach, you know, the relative amount of UV the umbrella is gonna block depends on what it's made out of. There was a study several years ago that looked at the actual UV blocking abilities of various umbrellas. They looked at a Coolie Bar umbrella and it blocked like 99% of UV. A white umbrella from the brand Totes blocked 77% of ultraviolet radiation, which isn't like amazing, but it's also not too bad. A black Totes brand umbrella blocked 90% of UV. So it does offer pretty good protection. But again, you want to combine forces here. You don't want to just rely on the umbrella. You don't want to just rely on sunscreen. Ideally the two together, and throw in sun protective clothing in there. That is a great thing. UPF is referring to a fabric's ability to block ultraviolet radiation. So UPF 50 blocks out about 98% of ultraviolet radiation. So 2% is still getting to your skin, but that is a substantial reduction, far superior to what you're likely to get from sunscreen. So it's a really great option. But I always emphasize this to people, you don't necessarily have to use clothing that is like specifically UPF, right? Like the brands, like I often wear Coolie Bar, you don't necessarily have to buy those brands. Those brands go through testing to demonstrate the protection, and they are made of materials and treated with things to allow for that protection to be long lasting throughout the life of the garment, and also to hold up with protection when the garment is wet or stretched. But you don't necessarily have to use those things, because depending on the fabric, the material, other just regular clothing can also protect you. So for example, certain cotton fabrics have natural lignins in them that absorb UV. Also, depending on the color of the fabric, dark colors and bright colors also offer some inherent UV protection. Then, of course, the weave of the fabric, a tight weaved fabric is going to offer more protection than one that's like gauzy. If you hold up a non-UPF fabric and you can see light coming through, there's a good chance UV, of course, is also coming through. So not as good as one where you can't see light going through. And then the way in which you're wearing it, really tight clothes that stretch, more likely with the stretch, are gonna allow UV to come through versus looser fitting clothing. I'm a big fan of looser fitting clothing in the summer months too, just because you don't want that excess friction on the skin. It can cause like rashes and things and chafing. Also, when the fabric gets wet from, you know, the ocean water or from sweat, it's not going to offer very good protection. Unless, of course, it is a specific UPF fabric, like a UPF bathing suit, for example, or a UPF rash guard. Even better, SPF, which is what sunscreen is labeled with, is a measure that reflects the amount of time that it's going to take for the skin basically to turn red, to burn with UV exposure. So that is actually measured on human skin with UV lights, whereas the UPF protection is measuring how well the fabric actually blocks out UV. And importantly, SPF is a reflection of the sunscreen's ability to protect you from UVB, which is just one part of ultraviolet radiation that comes from the sun and is primarily the part that burns you. Whereas UPF, as clothing is labeled, that is both UVB and UVA. But the place at the beach where you are most likely to get a sunburn is actually when you're in the water, because your skin is still getting that UV, but your skin is cooled from the water temperature, so you don't perceive it as quickly. Is make sure, of course, you're wearing a water-resistant sunscreen. You are reapplying it at least every 40 to 80 minutes, depending on the water resistance factor. And you also ideally would be relying on other things like a rash guard, I recommend. So just be mindful of that. You definitely can burn when you're in the water, and it is very common. Speaking of getting out of the water, when you are done swimming in the ocean, take the wet bathing suit off and rinse the skin with fresh water. If you stay in a wet bathing suit, it can lead to chafing, to skin irritation, and it can cause butt acne in the form of, well, a folliculitis. So basically, it can cause the skin to become irritated around the hair follicle, and you get these little bumps. And so do change out of a wet bathing suit into dry clothing. I've said this before, but it bears mentioning again, especially if you don't normally watch my videos and you're new here. Hi. There is no such thing as getting a base tan to protect you from the sun. That is a myth. So no, don't get a base tan. Don't go to the tanning bed before a beach vacation. It's just really bad for your skin. If you want to arrive at the beach with the appearance of tan skin, I suggest using a sunless tanner. However, I will point out sunless tanning products do not offer sun protection, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about is for those of you, most normal people, I'll be honest, most normal people who enjoy going to the beach, I should say, because some people hate going to the beach. Most normal people who enjoy going to the beach oftentimes love to walk barefoot on the beach. I mean, this is like, hello, like every online dating profile, long walks on the beach. People enjoy walking barefoot on the beach. I enjoy walking barefoot on the beach, but nothing will kill joy in your life more than medical education or residency training. I mean, it will just start to take a lot of the joy out of your life. And I've mentioned this in videos before, and you guys are always like, oh no, here she goes again. You guys roll your eyes. I can feel it coming through as I'm editing the video. I can feel the eye roll on the other side of the camera. Y'all know I'm not a big fan of walking barefoot, like in my home. I caution against walking barefoot through like a communal locker or gym. And I blame it all on being a dermatologist. This was not an issue before I went through training and saw patients with all sorts of little foot fungus, splinters, warts from walking barefoot. But at the beach, I may just ruin beaches for you forever with this last thing. Did you know that there is a common little critter that you can pick up from walking barefoot on the beach? It is called a hookworm. And what it does is, this can happen at the beach. It can happen if you have a sandbox that your kid plays in. That's another common location for it. But basically, there's a little hookworm. When its larvae hatch, if they come in contact with the skin, they can come up into your skin. Now, fortunately, the basement membrane of your skin stops them in their track, but they do get into your skin, and immediately where they have entered, within a few minutes to hours, you will start to feel like this itchy, tingling sensation, and it's called larva cutanea migrans because basically the larva, I'm not making this up, I know it sounds like something out of the Twilight Zone, but it's a real thing, and it's relatively common. I've seen actually a lot of cases of it in my career, including when I was a med student working in the ER. I remember somebody came in with this, and I felt like so smart that I knew what it was because I'd been reading about dermatology when I was supposed to be reading about, I don't know, IV fluids or something. Anyway, and so what it does, migrates under the skin, and you get this raised, itchy, red, it's called a serpiginous eruption because it almost looks like a little snake. And then the larvae just die in your skin. And as they die in your skin, it can be itchy and kind of get a little more aggravated a bit, and then it just goes away. This creeps people out for obvious reasons. It seems very creepy. It is kind of a creepy thing, I'll be honest. And you can get it from walking barefoot on the beach. You also can get it, you know, if you lay on the sand, for example, like anywhere on the sand that your skin comes in contact with. Oh, there goes our light. You can get this. It can come in through your skin. And so sometimes people might get it like on their shoulder, their buttock, you know, again, wherever you're laying on the sand. So lay on your towel. All that to say, I do walk barefoot on the beach sometimes because I just love it so much. And I've never gotten this. But it can happen not just on the beach, but like anywhere where you happen to be walking barefoot outside. If you garden outside, you could easily get this if you walk through your garden barefoot. This is why I don't go barefoot. Honestly, medicine will ruin things for you. If you go into the medical field, I swear it will ruin certain things for you. Like I have friends who work in the pediatric ER and they absolutely 100% will never allow their kids to have trampolines or go in one of those bounce houses. And I'm like, no trampoline, what? I know fractures, but like I'll still go on a trampoline because they're fun. But for me, you know, one of the things that medical training destroyed for me is just going barefoot. Like I am just like, thanks, but no thanks. And this is one case where, as you can see, it's kind of freaky. All right, guys, we're here in the dark because I lost my light, but thank you for making it to the end of this video. Hopefully I did not terrify you away from the beach. I hope you found this video informative, educational, entertaining. But if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.